Hey guys, Professor Rex here. I wanted to go over a couple of things about the introduction, the different components that make up a really healthy introduction, and kind of give you guys a little bit more guidance as to how and why the template is working the way that it does, or supposed to work the way that it does. All right, so first off, this is your template. Okay, it's color coordinated. It's the same one that you guys have been working off of on Canvas. And again, you'll see the 3 different sections that make up your introduction paragraph. So you have your grabber, also known as the hook. You have your linking sentences, which will help your reader go from your hook, whatever it might be that you use, to your overall argument. So these sentences are very important because they're bringing in your reader from their outside world into the world of your paper, and most importantly, the argument of your paper, which is found in your thesis statement. Okay, so these are the 3 different components in your template. They are also the same components in the diagram that I uploaded earlier. I think that was about 2 weeks ago, that include your grabber, linking sentences. You got an extra section in here that we will not be focusing on for this assignment, and then your thesis statement. Okay, so the importance of these 2 things is to keep you organized. Okay, so like I talked about in the previous video about the importance or the reason that we have this template, the same thing that we're going to go over here, but this is going to be more specific to the introduction. Okay, and so the reason I built this is because a lot of the time, and the reason I've kept the introduction outline a little bit more simple, is because I know that in a lot of English classes and a lot of my students' experiences is that we are taught to write papers. We are asked to write papers, but we are not necessarily taught the different things that go into the paragraphs that make up our papers. So what I get from students a lot of the time is they feel like they're playing the guessing game. They're like, well, I don't really know what goes in an introduction, but this feels like it does, and I've always gotten decent grades on my essays, so this is okay. And I have some students that are like, I always get terrible grades on my essays. They say that my introductions are bad, or that my thesis statements are bad, or whatever it is. And that's not entirely the student's fault. In fact, it's a lot of our fault as the professors and teachers to just assume that you guys know how to do that. And so I really wanted to break it down and kind of help you guys out. A lot of students will stop and tell me, I don't know where to start my papers. I don't know how to start an introduction. And that's really why I created this template. I want students to feel so confident in their writing and so proud of their writing. But I believe that in order to do so, you have to know really what goes into the writing and what makes a good essay, makes a good body paragraph, makes a good introduction paragraph, makes a good conclusion paragraph. And without feeling very confident in those things, I don't feel like students can really hand over a paper and feel really good about it, or inspired by their own writing, or feel like they're going to inspire others. So that is why I created this. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the different things that make up an introduction, that we're supposed to add to an introduction, and then I'm also going to spend a lot of time on thesis statements. So I won't get into thesis statements yet, even though I can talk about them forever. I'm going to first start with, let's start with this, okay? So again, these 3 components are the same components in this here, except we are not, for this essay, going to worry about the green section. Here, this template or diagram, okay, is mostly used for what's the same one that you guys are using, but this one I created for a class that is writing about a piece of literature that we're reading together. So that's why here it says introduction to the author, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that is because we're focusing on one book. For your guys' assignment, obviously, we are writing an argumentative essay, so you're kind of bringing in a lot of different sources and a lot of your own voice, so we're not going to really need that section there, all right? So, just so we know again, these 3 things in the introduction here match up with 1, 2, and 3. All right, so let's start with here. Okay, so the grabber, which is also known as the hook, I'm going to write it right here, hooks or grabs your reader's attention. Okay, so that is the intent of this part of your introduction. It's really to captivate your reader's attention. Okay, so remember, all of us are living our own unique worlds. We all have unique experiences, different responsibilities, right? We're all living our own individual lives. And with that being said, we are asking our reader to devote time not only to reading our paper, but to really think critically about the information within our papers. And to do that, we need to make sure that we're capturing their attention. And the beginning of the introduction is the perfect place to do it. You want to make sure that you're telling your reader, hey, what I'm about to say It's important, so I need you to listen. I need to captivate your attention. I really need you to be part of this paper, part of this reading. Okay, and that is really what you do in the very first part of your introduction. Now, a lot of students will ask me, well, how do I grab somebody's attention? How do I hook somebody's attention? It depends on the topic. It depends on the tone of your paper. It depends on where you are going to take your entire paper. Now, for this paper, because you guys are being asked to respond to the question, which is, how can colleges and universities best continue to, did I really just forget? How can colleges and universities best foster intellectual difficult discourse while also protecting students? There it is. Something very close to that, okay? So that's what I'm asking you guys to respond to within this essay. Now, in doing so, I have found that this essay topic often evokes a lot of emotional responses. A lot of them are personal emotional responses, and a lot of them are shared personal responses or shared responses, being that they've heard students who are writing this paper have heard of a lot of different students' experiences, and they really want to integrate those experiences into their paper. I think that's a beautiful and awesome way to start a paper. Why? Because your experiences matter, your life matters, everything that you've ever gone through to get to where and who you are today matters. And what better way to open up a paper to captivate a reader's attention than to show them a piece of you, or to show them a part of your life or someone else's life that is powerful and maybe relevant to their own life, okay? So that's what I always tell my students to do in the grabber. Captivate your reader's attention with something important, something impactful, something that is going to maybe relate to your reader. So there's different things that you can add there, right? Some students love statistics. Some students love to add quotes from famous authors. Some students like to start with an anecdote, which is a personal story or somebody else's story, very short, just the details that you need, that will relate to the overall topic of your paper. So again, grabber or a hook. So for those of you who really want to share a personal experience that relates to the paper prompt, or maybe you want to share somebody else's experience that relates to the paper prompt, I would say include that in your introduction. Include that as the opener, the grabber, the hook of your paper, because students want to know, readers want to know, professors want to know what it is that makes you think, what it is that makes you feel a different way. And that's really what you do in the hook and the grabber, all right? So you'll see that on this diagram here, I have that it can be a quote, a statistic, a fun fact, etc. So really the grabber, the hook can be a lot of things, but please keep in mind that whatever you choose needs to at some point relate to your overall argument. So you can't just pull some random quote that's not going to ever relate. It has to relate, or at least it will relate to your overall argument at some point. And I'll provide you guys with a little bit of a couple of examples in just a second. So grabber, boom, we're good with that, okay? The next part here is your linking sentences. Again, also matches with this here, linking sentences. And I have in parentheses on this one, introduction of overall topic sets the tone of your paper, okay? So to set the tone of your paper or to introduce the topic, we need to include your who, what, where, and when. I don't always say how because sometimes the how comes in the body paragraphs. Okay, but this is what I believe the linking sentences should establish. Okay, you should be telling your reader, who are we talking about? What are we talking about? Where are we talking about it? And at what time are we talking about it? The when behind it, okay? And again, I'll kind of explain this a little bit more when I get into the examples, but the linking sentences begin to link this hook, this grabber, to your argument, okay? And so you'll notice that this is in a funnel shape. Why? What does a funnel do? Okay, a funnel, we know when you use it to add oil to your car, basically what it does is it brings something of great volume and it places it into a receptacle of some kind, okay? A very concentrated, smaller place. So you're bringing in this mass quantity of something into this concentrated place. That's what I want you to think about what you're doing, or this is how I want you to look at what you are doing for your reader. You are in essence taking them from this big outside world, okay? Right outside this window is real life. It's stuff that's happening every single day to all of us. What you're gonna do is you're asking your reader, hey, this topic, this essay is so important that I want you to come from out here and I want you to live in my paper for a second. And in order to do that, we're asking them to go down a funnel. Okay, so we're grabbing their attention at the top of the funnel. We're providing them with just enough context and information for them to understand where we are headed, and then boom, we are giving them our argument, and then that's the end of the funnel, and it's gonna shoot out the information that we need to prove to our reader. And that is why it's in the funnel shape, okay? So you're gonna grab their attention, you're gonna link, you're gonna answer the who, what, where, when, that somehow should relate to this, and then you are going to give them your argument and your thesis statement, all right? So your thesis statement here is the most important sentence in your entire paper, okay? Why? If you think about the heart, your heart, right, or your brain, both are very important, okay? Your body cannot survive without a heart. Your heart supplies the blood supply to all your different parts of your body. It makes it run, it makes it heal, it makes it sleep, all of it, okay? It is the heart of your body. It's the most important part of your body. That's the same thing with your thesis statement, which is why it's the end of the funnel, okay? So your thesis statement, because it's at the end of the funnel, and also because it's the last component necessary in the introduction, means that it's the very last sentence in your entire introduction paragraph, okay? Now, a lot of the time students say, well, my professor said that my introduction can be, or my thesis statement can be more than one sentence. In some cases, yeah, you'll see thesis statements that are about 2 sentences long. For this paper, really, because the length requirement is not so massive, you're not writing a huge dissertation or anything, a single sentence thesis statement is definitely doable and will keep you more organized throughout the writing process, okay? So that is why it's at the end of the funnel. I have a lot of students who ask me or tell me, you know, I had a teacher one time tell me that the thesis statement is the very first sentence in your introduction paragraph. It's not. It's the last sentence in your introduction paragraph. And the reason it's not the first sentence is because if you're just throwing your reader into this big argument, they're like, wait, what? Like, what just happened? Whereas when you lead them through the funnel, you give them a little bit of grabber, you bring them in, you answer the who, what, where, when. They already know where they're headed, and boom, you hit them with your argument, and it all makes sense, okay? If we had it first, it would throw off the order of everything. Okay, so now we understand the organization of the introduction paragraph, okay? So I'm actually going to pause this video, and then I want to jump, no, we're not gonna pause it. We're gonna just make a very long video, okay? So now let's jump into thesis statements, okay? I brought in a couple of different examples that I've also provided to you on Canvas, but I wanna explain them a little bit more. And then I also created this really cool diagram on how to build out your thesis statement. Okay, because the thesis statement is such an important part of your paper, you need to really devote some time to it. Make sure that it's a really concise and clean and powerful sentence that allows your reader to know where the rest of your paper is headed. It keeps you organized, it keeps your reader organized, and it helps me as your grader stay organized so that I can help pinpoint the different things that you maybe need more work on or the different things that you're doing really, really great on. All right, so let's jump into a little bit more about thesis statements. So your thesis statement is going to include a number of things, okay? First off and foremost, it's going to include your overall argument, your big boom, okay? Your argument is going to be the same throughout your paper. Now, you're going to be bringing in different topics and sources and dissections and analysis that are going to help prove your argument to be true, or at least drive your reader closer to believing your side or your perspective. So, with that being said, because you're going to be using other topics, you really need to make sure that your argument is established and that it's going to be the same argument throughout the paper, and you're just going to be bringing in different topics to reinforce your argument. So with that being said, I have this diagram, and on the top of this diagram, you'll notice that it says main argument. Okay, this bubble here, main argument, and then for the sake of just the 5-paragraph essay format, which of course you're more than welcome to do more than 5 paragraphs, you're encouraged to. This is just to help you guys understand the layout, okay? So let's pretend that I have one topic per body paragraph. So I have my introduction, and I have body paragraph number 1, body paragraph number 2, body paragraph number 3, and then boom, my conclusion, that's a 5-paragraph essay, okay? So for the sake of this example, we're just gonna pretend it's a 5-paragraph essay that we're all writing. Boom, my main argument. Now this is not gonna deal with the same topic that we're talking about in class, but for the sake of an example, this is what we're gonna use. Okay, so the main argument here is today the media participates in the philosophy Plato presents an allegory of the cave. For those of you who don't know, Plato was a famous philosopher from a long time ago. He wrote this story called Allegory of the Cave. And so what I'm pretending to do here is I'm comparing his story, Allegory of the Cave, to the motives of the media. This was created by a student, and I thought it was great, so I really wanted, this thesis statement itself was created by a student, and I wanted to use the diagram to show how the student organized his thesis statement, which fueled the rest of the organization in his essay, okay? So that was his argument here. Today, the media participates in the philosophy Plato presents an allegory of the cave. Now, his 3 different ways he's going to prove it, the 3 different topics he's going to analyze to prove this are these. Number 1, the media only presents to its viewers what each specific group believes. Number 2, the media seems to silence those who oppose it. And number 3, the media suggests that a focused knowledge is more powerful than an all-encompassing outlook, which seems to understand the view of others. Those are his 3 topics, okay? We're not going to get into the nitty-gritties of what the writer's trying to say here. We're just using this for an example. Okay, so now what this person has done, the student, they've taken their overall argument, they've combined it with their specific topics, and they have used these things, all of these things together, to create a really clean and precise thesis statement, okay? And this is how the thesis statement reads. Today, the media participates in the philosophy Plato presents an allegory of the cave, and that it only presents to its viewers what each specific group believes. It seems to silence those who oppose it, and it suggests that a focused knowledge is more powerful than an all-encompassing outlook. Boom. That is their thesis statement. So now, what this does for me is it allows me to understand, if I was the writer here, I know exactly what my 3 paragraphs, body paragraphs, are going to be made up of in this 5-paragraph essay. So the first paragraph is going to be, if I look at the thesis statement, is going to be that the media only presents to its viewers what each specific group believes. Okay, the second one, so here I have number 1. Okay, the second body paragraph is going to be how the media seems to silence those who oppose it. And then the third one is that the media suggests that a focused knowledge is more powerful than an all-encompassing one. That's my third topic. So I'm going to number those here. You'll notice that the order of these, 1, 2, and 3, is different than the order of the actual thesis statement. Now that's because the writer of this paper decided, you know what, I'm gonna move this topic around. I want this topic to be number 2 and I want this one to be number 3. Totally fine. Now keep in mind that when you do that, when you adjust the order in your thesis statement, you have to make sure that the order of your body paragraphs are also changed. Okay? It's important because basically what you're doing is you're handing your reader this roadmap. You're saying, here's this map. You need to go here, here, and here. Okay? Now, if I handed you a map, pretending we don't have Google Maps and Waze and all of that anymore, if I handed you a map and I said you're going to pass point A, then point B, and point C before you reach your destination, you're going to hope that you pass A, B, and C in that order. Now, if I say you're going to pass A, B, and C, but then really you have to pass A, then C, then B, you're going to be confused. You're going to get lost on your driving and be like, she just told me I had to go A, B, C, but now I'm passing C, so did I miss something, right? You don't want to do that with your reader. The second that you lose your reader's attention, they're gone. They're out, so we don't want to lose them to misorganization, or lack of organization. So the order in which your topics are presented in your thesis statement need to be the order in which your body paragraphs of those topics follow. Okay? So, where is it at? You got 1, 2, and 3. Now the beauty behind that is I could take this 1, 2, and 3, and then I could look at my topic paragraph here. So boom, number 1. Boom, number 2. And boom, somewhere around here, number 3. Okay? So what that allows for you to do is when you are adding your research or when you are adding your argument or your analysis, you're bringing in sources, whatever, it keeps you very organized. You'll say, okay, this source applies more specifically to the media which seeks to silence those who oppose it. All right, cool. This source is going to go in body paragraph number 2. Oh, this source looks like it goes in body paragraph number 3. Let me write it here. So it keeps you very organized, and that's exactly what we want. So you combine all of those components, and boom, you have a pretty start to an introduction.